So since it's seemingly been decided over the past hour that Julio Jones will be the topic of the day, let's go through some recent tweets from Ian Rapoport and Adam Schefter just to talk about the news surrounding the former All-Pro wide receivers. So Adam Schefter has tweeted out recently that the Falcons are asking for first-round picks from teams inquiring about Julio Jones, but the people around the league don't believe they will actually get a first-round pick for him. And that makes sense considering he's 32 years old, coming off the worst year of his career since 2013. Injuries more nagging than substantial, I would say, but nagging injuries do eventually add up, especially for a player who's probably towards the back end of his prime, maybe 2 or 3 prime seasons left if we're stretching it. And Ian Rapoport has tweeted in as well, saying that Julio Jones requested a trade from the organization being the Atlanta Falcons, a few months ago. So it certainly seems like, yes, this relationship is ending. You can add this to what Julio Jones said on Undisputed with Shannon Sharpe earlier today, that he was out of Atlanta or he's out of there. And then you could go and look at the reports from the Athletic a couple days ago saying that the Falcons wanted to trade Julio Jones. So this marriage is over, basically. It certainly seems like he will play on a different team next year, although the financial the financial issues and hurdles you could face trying to move Julio Jones could be significant because of his contract, because of the limited cap space our teams have, because of what Atlanta's asking for currently. I don't think there's a team out there that will trade a first-round pick for Julio Jones for all the reasons I've just stated. There have been receivers who have been traded for first-round picks in the past, but those guys were much younger. I'm just looking at some examples of guys who were traded for first-round picks. Stephon Diggs, when he went to Buffalo, the Vikings got a first round for him and a bunch of other late-round picks. I think a 5th, 6th, and 7th-round pick in that process. Famously, the Houston Texans traded away DeAndre Hopkins and did not get a first-round pick in return for him, but I think that was less to say about DeAndre Hopkins' value considering the massive extension he signed with Arizona. I think it's more a deal with Bill O'Brien's ineptitude and Hopkins just not wanting to be there. The other trades we can look at, Odell Beckham Jr. being traded. They got, I think, a first-round pick. The Giants did from Cleveland for him, along with several other assets, including Jabril Peppers and Kevin Zeitler. So they got a first-round for him at least. And then that's really the ideal 3 that you can really look at recently of superstar receivers getting moved to other teams. The issue with comparing the Julio Jones situation to those 3 trade scenarios is that those guys were much younger than Julio. Julio's 32. Diggs was hitting his peak. Hopkins had been at his peak for a little while, but you expected him to continue on that level for some time. And Odell Beckham Jr. was, supposed to be at his peak. He hasn't really proven that he is in Cleveland so far. I mean, with 2 years with the Browns, 1,000-yard season, of course, his past year lost to injury. But when he arrived there initially, he was only 26, 27 years old. So you expected more production from him. Julio Jones at 32 years old, you're likely not getting another contract out of him. Whatever he does left on his current contract is likely it from him as a star receiver. And that's potentially a stretch considering, like I said, the injuries, everything like that building up. Maybe this means that you're not going to get 3 good years of Julio Jones. Maybe you're only going to get 1. Maybe you're only going to get 2. So I doubt that he'll actually be traded for a first-round pick. I think you're more likely going to see multiple early round selections. And when I say early round selections, I mean 2nd and 3rd rounders traded for Julio instead, because, again, it's just less risky. But I think there are also scenarios where a team that's in win now mode or in desperation mode, like say the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers, who, if they were to talk to Aaron Rodgers and Aaron says, yes, I will return, I will play, I will show up to voluntary camp, which he didn't do today, but I will show up to voluntary camp, I will be fully engaged with this team going forward if you acquire Julio Jones. In that situation, I would consider it okay for a team to trade a first-round pick for Julio, because you have Julio, Devontae Adams on a Green Bay roster that, if Aaron Rodgers leaves, they're no longer a contender, because it does all revolve around Aaron Rodgers. Let's be honest. They have a bunch of talented players out there, including Jair Alexander and Zadarius Smith. But if Aaron Rodgers is gone, then it doesn't even matter. So I think that team might be okay with it. And really, I don't know if anyone else. People throwing Baltimore around, I don't know. You just got Rashad Bateman. Marquise Brown's also a first-round pick. I mean, the Baltimore's done a really good job of finding veterans and trading for veterans, guys like Calais Campbell, Marcus Peters, without spending first-round capital, even guys like Yannick Ngakoue. So I don't think if Baltimore's involved with the trade for Julio Jones, it probably won't be a first-round pick, but I don't think a first-rounder would really boost his team that significantly. I don't think adding Julio Jones, when the offense is primarily run-based, first off, doesn't throw the ball near as much as they run it. I'm sure that's not actually correct. I'm sure they probably have more pass attempts than rushing attempts, but the offense, when we understand this, the offense there is focused on the run. But you can do with guys like Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram when he's there, Lamar Jackson. That's really what the core of this offense is built around. Not throwing the ball. They're not going to throw the ball for 4,000 yards a season, which is sort of what Julio Jones has enjoyed the majority of his career in Atlanta. So just looking at some more tweets from Ian Rapoport that have come out, Jones said what he said basically because, or this is what Ian Rapoport is hypothesizing, I guess, is that he said what he said because he knows he's requested a trade and that Atlanta is looking for a trade, but that does not guarantee that a trade will actually happen, which I've said because, again, the money will be very difficult as well as the compensation. Certainly seems like those things will be limiting factors in the number of teams that will actually be in this race for Julio Jones. Although I'm sure plenty of teams will still call. So it says, Ian Rapoport also tweeted out there were a flurry of calls before the draft trying to trade Julio Jones. But it just doesn't, because again, it's a lot of money for an aging player. Like you said, who's a future Hall of Famer, was a perennial Pro Bowler up until this past year when he got hurt. He could rebound well. He could be another 1,300 yards next year and be a top 5 receiver in the NFL again. Or it could just be a slippery slope where you end up having to deal with more and more injuries and you only play 10 games next year, you only play 13 games, because it's a 17-game season now. So now you're looking at more games, more chances for injuries, that kind of stuff. And you don't want to be the team that trades for Julio Jones and have an Odell Beckham Jr. situation where he comes in and doesn't really fit immediately, and then he's hurt the next year. Or you don't want to be in an AJ Green situation where the Cincinnati kind of obviously didn't trade him, but they kept him around, and then his value just decreased every single year. You don't want to be a situation where you bring in that guy, that former stud receiver, or that current stud receiver who just does not live up to expectations, because then you've got a massive contract that you can't get out of, and a asset that's value is just going down precipitously. So you have to be careful with how much you trade for Julio, and when you do it, I think there are definitely a lot of teams that will be interested in Julio Jones. I'm not saying that he's going to have a small market, he's going to have a massive market. I just don't know how many teams will actually be able to, one, afford Julio Jones and have the cap space to do it, two, be willing to offer compensation that Atlanta will actually accept for Julio Jones.